Welcome back to Umineko 22. First we had Eva and Hideyoshi, then Kanon, then Kinzo. 3 episodes in a row. Can we go 4 for 4 with our streak of deaths here? Not that I want that, just for the sake of the joke. We going 4 for 4, baby. Here we go. Let's do it.
神出鬼没に屋敷内を出入りしていることが間違いなくなった今、私たちは明日まで身を守ることだけに専念しなくてはなりません。
夏日おばさんに極めて同感だぜ。犯人探しは今夜ゆっくりできるさ。
Look at these two leaders right here taking charge. Become the best of pals.
今はどこで籠城するかを考えた方がいい。
As I said this, I pointed out the clock to everyone. It was already 8 at night. We had been receiving shocks over and over again since the early morning, and our bodies and minds were both completely tired out. There's still a long, long time until tomorrow. We needed to find some place to barricade ourselves in, so we could rest our bodies and even get the smallest amount of relief.
私も同感ですが、私も含め、もうみんな体も心も限界まで打ちのめされています。今からそれを考えた方が賢明でしょうな。
そういうこった。敵はマスターキーに準ずるものを持っている降参が高い。
シャノンや
The
カノ
equivalent of the master
ゴー
key.
ダさんはマスターキーを持ってましたか？
はい。勤務時間中だったなら身につけていたはずです。
現場をいじらない方がいいってんで、そこまでは調べなかったろうが、誰かの鍵が奪われている可能性は否定できねえな。
そもそも犯人はバラ庭園倉庫のシャッターを開けるために一度使用人室を訪れている可能性があります。
So I guess we're in hunt the killer mode right now. Or at least try and discover who the culprit is.
そこでマスターキーをすでに入手していると考えて間違いないでしょう。
There were many servants serving the Yoshidamiya family. Because of that, there were several master keys. Furthermore, every time one employee started or finished working, the keys were passed between servants, and we had to acknowledge that this had probably gotten a bit sloppy at times in the past.
仮に殺された使用人の誰かのポケットから鍵束を拝借したとして、その鍵でも開けられない安全な場所はあるのか？
私たちはお仕事の都合上、すべてのお部屋の鍵を預かっておりま
What
す。
about the room with the gold bar that Kraus showed to Natsuhi?
お屋敷もゲストハウスもすべてです。
つまり私たちはどこへ立てこもって鍵をかけようと意味がないってわけだ。
The guests don't go in that room and clean, right?
上等だ
I mean, sorry, not the guests.
鍵なん
the
か言う
staff.
もんか。来るなら来やがれってんだ。返り討ちにしてやるぜ。
敵は正面から来ないよ。
Can I say I really like this whole like survival game arc. We went from happy family for the first few hours to family at each other's throats over inheritance, and now suddenly we're getting picked off one by one, walking through the house. We got the guns at the ready, and we're like in full survival mode. It's pretty fun. It's a fun little arc here.
最初の6人はともかく、母さんたちやカノ君、そしておじい様の霊を見る限り、敵は孤立した人間だけを狙ってる。 一部屋に固まっている僕たちのところへ堂々と乗り込んでこられるほどの力はないんだよ。
そうだな、兄貴の言う通りだ。ひょっとするとおばさんのライフル銃が抑止効果として成立してるのかもしれないぜ。
なら良いのですが。
マリア、言いたいことがあるんだろうが、そいつは飲み込んでしばらく黙ってろ。
Maria's just like, and he's like, nope, shut up. Maria probably wanted to say something about how witches weren't afraid of things like guns. But if she were to say it out loud, the atmosphere around here would start to get pretty edgy. I had noticed and decided to put a stop to it.
よろしいでしょうか。一箇所だけ使用人の鍵束でも入れない場所。
Is it not the gold bar room?
それはどこです？
You should know, Natsuki, right?
はい。親方様の書斎です。
Oh.
私は反対だぜ。
Just Kinzo's room then.
じい様の気持ち悪い部屋になんか入りたくない。
Okay.
あの部屋に入れる鍵は何本あるんですか？
You afraid of going in that room because it's creepy, even though there's a killer on the loose? Think of the priorities right now.
2本です。1本は常に私が、もう1本は親方様がお持ちでしたが、先ほどボイラー室の遺体からこれを。
We got both keys then.
本来なら警察のために鍵も残すべきだったのですが、親方様より書斎の留守は必ず守るようにと仰せつけられておりましたもので。なるほど。ということは金蔵さんの書斎は唯一の安全地帯というわけですな。
そういうことになりますね。あの怪しげな匂いの部屋に一晩も立てこもるなど考えたくもありません。
Come on, there are worse things right now.
あの部屋が一番安全であることを今は認めなければならないようです。
その安全な部屋に閉じこもってたじい様を犯人は連れ出して殺してる。
Well, there's no saying that the killer brought him out and he didn't just leave, right? I mean, Kinzo was like, yeah, if I'm gonna get killed by the roulette, so be it, let's go. So I think he probably just ran out and was like, well, there's no stopping this, so.
絶対安全とは言い切れねえけどな。
バトラ君の説のおじい様がうまくレシートをやり過ごして自分の意思で部屋を出たと考えるなら籠城の価値はあるかもしれない。
楽観的すぎだぜ、兄貴。
However, at the same time, I thought he brought up a pretty interesting point. After all, this gives us a chance to question the enemy, the witch herself, about how the sealed door had been opened. Okay, yeah, put yourself in a sealed room, see if she can, show you what happened. If we assume the culprit used some technique to kidnap grandfather from his study, they'd have to show us the same trick again if they wanted to assault us in the study. And that, it'd give us a chance to make the culprit prove how they did it right before our eyes. If she's really a witch, we'll be forcing her to use her little magic trick to open the door right in front of us. But that's probably impossible. If you spin the chessboard around, it's obvious the culprit is acting in a way that'll make us think they're a witch. If she really is a witch, all she's got to do is appear in front of us and wow us with a colorful display of magic. Since she's avoided doing that, everything must be the work of a fake witch who wants us to think she's real. Therefore, a culprit who used a technique other than magic to defeat the closed room couldn't open the door before our eyes.
じいさんの部屋ってのは8人で押しかけても大丈夫なくらいの広さなんすか？
From the backgrounds, it looked big enough for sure, yeah.
はい。
Yeah.
ベッドにソファー、毛布類もありますので、流しにご不浄。冷蔵庫に酒棚もあります。
ひゅーそいつはすげえぜ。しかしおかしなもんだな。
I feel like Natsuhi deserves a drink. Jeez.
自分の家の中
George can have a
さら
drink
に自分
too.
の家を作ったってのか？島を丸ごと買って自分の夢を全て実現しきったじい様の最後の家にしちゃ随分手狭なんだな。
そうですね。いつの頃からかお父様にとっては屋敷内ですら心を許せる場所ではなくなってしまったのでしょう。
そこに引きこもっていたのを私たちは嘲笑い、そして今度は私たちがそこに立てこもろうってわけだ。
Well, it's a bit different circumstances, I think. Jessica spat the words out.
ジェシカちゃんは立てこもるより犯人を探しに行きたいという感じだね。
もちろんこっちから探しに行って見つけられるなんて思っちゃいないぜ。結局は待つしかない。ならどこで待ったって同じだろ。
And that's how you get caught again. What is this TH?
逃げも隠れもしない。
What? I guess that was just a mistake. Okay.
客までテレビでも見ながらのんびり現れるのを待とうじゃねえかよ、ベアトリーチ様をよ。
現れなければ現れないで十分です。犯人を暴くのは私たちである必要がないからです。
正論ですな。警察が来るまで危険を冒すべきではありません。
You got some teens and young ones with you. You don't need to be going gung-ho searching for the culprit. The safety of everyone should be top priority.
私はお父様の書斎に移るべきだと思います。確かにお父様が連れ出された可能性があり、絶対の安全が保証されているわけではない。しかしバトラ君の推理のお父様が何らかの方法で自ら書斎を出て外で襲われた可能性も否定できません。
Yeah, I think that's the case. A while back, I proposed that strange theory as a stopgap measure, but just as Aunt Ava said, even though that trick would be possible, I couldn't explain what motive could have made Grandfather sneak out of his own study in such a troublesome way. Plus, Grandfather couldn't even have used that trick unless he knew that the receipt was wedged in the door. Aunt Ava hadn't pointed out that last part. Well, she also said she checked it before they went in, and it wasn't even a millimeter off from where it was before. But it's clear how absurd the theory was. So does that mean the sealed door formed a closed room, just as Aunt Ava claimed? Is it an undeniable fact that Aunt Natsuhi was the culprit? If Aunt Ava were here now, she'd probably make that claim openly and blow my strange theory away. But anyway, I had to admit that a room with both a bath and both a bed and a toilet that all 8 people could be shut up in, and only 2 keys, both of which were gathered here, had to be the safest place in the mansion right now. At the very least, I figured this would be better than just staying shut up in the parlor and hoping nothing would go wrong. But wait, have we been safe only because we've been shut up in the parlor? What if leaving that room and moving to an unexplored location is actually more dangerous? I mean, I feel like you've been unsafe because people keep just walking around everywhere, going to their own rooms, going to the basement, Kinzo going who knows where. Just pick a place and stay there. It's muda, muda, muda. It's useless, useless, all useless. My flimsy head is about to break out in a fever. If I keep spinning the chessboard around, right and wrong will keep switching places over and over, and I won't be able to believe anything. When it seems like the culprit is one of the 18, I want to believe in Beatrice. And once I start believing in Beatrice, I want to find the culprit amid the 18. If that keeps spinning around forever, in the end my thoughts won't have taken one step from where they started. How far back in the past was it that Kitty-san taught me about chessboard thinking? That concept of examining the situation by spinning it around and thinking from the enemy's side. I seem to remember her being so interested by it back then. I used it all to guide my thinking. By the way, Kitty-san was Dad's co-worker back then. I remember this, yeah. I never dreamed that she'd someday be added to our family. If I recall, she married Rudolph very shortly after the mom died. The mom died, right? Died or left? Mom died. I don't know why I'm forgetting this now of all times. Oh, it's not going to tell me this stuff. Okay, yeah. Asumu's death, yes. I was right. I don't know why I was questioning that. I knew that. Oh. Are we going into some kind of flashback or into Battler's mind? Didn't Kitty-san tell me something once? I get the feeling she once said that, while this chessboard thinking was one way to look at things, it certainly wasn't all-powerful, and it wouldn't be good to rely on too much. Oh, it's been a long time, Kitty.
昔本で読んだゲーム理論というものを私なりに解釈したものよ。とても面白い学問だから、バトラ君も大学に入ったら挑戦してみるといいわよ。
ぜひやってみたいっす。それを勉強してチェス盤思考をもっと鍛えたら、どんな相手の手の内も読めるみたいで楽しいじゃないっすか。
I get the feeling it's supposed to be a younger battler, but are they really still talking at the Yoshinomiya house? Is it supposed to be like... Maybe they just didn't have another background to use, I don't know. Shouldn't be looking into it too hard.
でもね、盲信しちゃダメよ。ゲーム理論は非常に奥深く複雑な学問なの。チェス盤思考はその上辺だけを私なりに解釈した考え方に過ぎない。バトラ君が想像するほどに相手の手の内を読み切るには相当の勉強が、しかもチェス盤理論は応用の利く便利なものではあっても完璧ではない。便利ではあっても弱点が多い。
弱点？
ええ。チェス盤思考の基礎はゲーム理論。ゲーム理論は突き詰めると数学に行き着くの。数学の弱点は何か知ってる？ノイズよ。
In math, when you write down 1 plus 1 equals 2, that process will always result in 1 plus 1 equals 2, no matter how many billions of years pass. Nothing more, nothing less. That's because there's absolutely no noise mixed in. But, for example, unlike math, the Japanese language has noise mixed in. Kanji are a good example. Old kanji and new kanji are slightly different, which represents an introduction of noise created by the changes between time periods. Isn't history the same? There are dozens of policies that seem foolish in the modern era, but were meaningful at some point in the past. Because the rules of chess are fixed, when a pair of experts are discussing one particular layout, it's possible they could reach the same conclusions, whether they're from 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future. However, if the rules of chess had gone through massive changes over time, it's possible that a discussion about the same layout would have changed as well.
その通り。人の世の事象は本来ノイズだらけなのよ。人の感情だってそうでしょ。全く同じことが起こったからといって人は必ず決められた反応を示すとは限らない。それを数学の理論で当てはめ相手の行動を読もうとする時点ですでに理論には弱点と限界があることを知らなければ。手っ取り早く言うとチェス盤思考はノイズや気まぐれ、そして誤解、認識ミスに非常に弱いの。
Okay. Sure. That's right. Kuri-san definitely said that. Chess has always been a game where both sides play the same rules and fight with the same conditions for victory. That's why it's possible for both sides to predict the other's moves. It's possible to read your opponent because you can always suppose they'll make the best moves they can find. But what if your opponent is fickle or a bit tired and makes a move that can hardly be called the best? Or what if this game actually has a special rule, some unknown thing that only the enemy knows about and can use? In fact, what if the opponent actually has some goal other than victory? Think from your enemy's perspective. That's the basis of chessboard thinking. Which means if you misread your enemy, the answer you draw from this process will be complete rubbish, useless. So far, I've used chessboard theory to guess several vague bits of information about the culprit hiding behind this case, or so I think. However, I don't know anything about the culprit. Am I just playing around in a labyrinth of thought? If Kitty-san were here at a time like this, she'd probably be able to notice something with her much sharper thinking ability. Until the very last moment, Jessica resisted moving into grandfather's study. Oh, come on. But in the end, Aunt Natsuhi persisted, and we decided to move there. Everyone was completely wrapped in paranoia by now. Kumasawa-san had prepared dinner at one point, but during the time we were discovering that the deaths of George Aniki's parents, both the kitchen and the parlor had been left empty. Someone suggested that the food might have been poisoned while we were gone. Because of that, we were unable to even touch the food that Kumasawa had taken from the trouble to make for us. I mean, that's a good thought. The manner in which the first 6 were killed was still unknown, but it certainly could have been poison. Oh, that's one way to take out a room of 6 people, yeah. Certainly that would allow even a single person to carry out the murder of 6 large adults. Furthermore, this idea made it easy to imagine there being only a single culprit who'd be afraid of Aunt Natsuhi's rifle. And this was very good for our emotional stability. Until, like, Maria comes around. Like, Battler stopped her before, but the fatigue and hunger were even harsher than we'd imagined. Then Kumasawa-san made a proposal, and we all went together to the kitchen. I love they're just all, like, traveling as a group of 8 now. It's the smartest thing to do. I'm glad they're doing it. Not splitting up. You go to the kitchen, you go check out Kinzo's room. There we gathered some canned food and other things that'd be hard to poison to take in with us. All of Kumasawa-san's efforts to reward us with just a little dinner on this savage day regrettably came to nothing. The food piled up on the serving cart looked just a little sad. We all started climbing the stairs. Aunt Natsuhi, who was in the lead, warily stared into the darkness with both eyes and the barrel of the gun. Once we dragged ourselves up to the 3rd floor, just as Aunt Natsuhi had warned us of beforehand, there was a mixture of a chemical smell and a sickly sweet aroma, a stench hanging in the air that felt like it was eating into our heads. We haven't heard about the green liquor in a long time.
なるほど。こりゃ一晩もこもったら頭痛にでもなりそうな匂いだな。今更ながらじい様の書斎に反対したジェシカに賛成だぜ。
Because of the smell. Really? It felt like the stench was floating out from this magnificent door. It was the door to the forbidden study which should defend against anyone who would enter. While Genji-san unlocked the door, Maria stared at the door and the doorknob with great interest.
おー、すごいドア。
You haven't been in here? Didn't your log say that? Oh. Could have sworn we heard before that Kinzo was the one who kind of taught her about occult black magic stuff, or at least they were talking together about it. For some reason I figured that would have been in his study, but I know he wasn't always locked in his study, so maybe it was before that.
古くいかめしくて冗談の通じなさそうな、いかにもじい様の書斎にふさわしい扉だよな。
霊的な悪意を退ける力がとても強く込められている。
Yeah, thank you, Maria.
多分ベアトリーチェはこの扉を開けられないね。
Oh, yeah? Oh, okay. Not even with her super spell that can open any locked door or whatever?
お？それどういうことだよ。
Maria pointed at the doorknob. Scorpions. Oh, just like the scorpion charm. A scorpion crest. No, a design like a magic circle arranged around a scorpion. It was inscribed there. Our third circle. That design, that's right. Isn't it just like those keychain charms Maria gave Jessica and me yesterday? Oh god, that was just yesterday. The beach. I can't believe, like, we arrived at the island yesterday. That blows my mind. Right? It was definitely yesterday that we arrived at the island. It feels like we've been here for weeks. The fifth magic circle of Mars.
しかもこの魔法陣は相当丹念に作られていて、力が魔のものであるベアトリーチェにとってこの魔法陣はとても厄介だろうね。
それは心強いじゃねえか。
I'm surprised Maria created those scorpion charms for Jessica and Battler. If she's so like gung-ho about the witch, like, you know, getting closer to her and she wants to see the witch and all that.
この部屋ならベアトリーチェのマッシュから逃げられるってことだろ。
Yeah, I think
う
so.
ちの魔女様は実に頼もしいぜ。
Wait, Kinzo wanted so badly for Beatrice to, you know, come into the room, like, not come into the room, but show her face and everything. He was begging, like, her, like, please show your face to me one more time. But it seems like his room is constructed in a way to keep Beatrice out, strangely enough. So I'd like to know more about that. Huh. Hmm.
ならベアトリーチェはどうやって中のおじい様を？
I don't think that's the case.
バトラが推理した通りだよ。ベアトリーチェは中に入れない。でも彼女には魔法があるし、使い魔だっている。
Familiars, huh?
それらを使っておじい様が自分から書斎を出てくるように仕向けることはできるかも。
ああ、漫画で読んだな。吸血鬼は十字架が怖くて近づけねえけど、使い魔たちはへっちゃらなんで使い魔に襲わせるみたいなシーンを読んだことがあるぜ。
バトラたちに昨日あげたサソリのキーホルダーのようなお守りもこの火星の5の魔法陣だよ。 込められている力は微々たるものだけど、この島を出るまでの間を守ってくれるだけなら十分だった。
Are we assuming that's tomorrow, though?
なくしちゃったそうだけどね。
サソリのキーホルダーのお守り。
Natsuhi has one.
ああ、昨日私が母さんに渡したお守りはマリアにもらったものだったんだよ。ドアノブにかけると魔除けになるとか言われて、私より母さんの方がいいかなってあの時は思って。
そうでしたか。ジェシカにしては変わったものを持っていると思っていました。
夏日おばさんがあれをドアノブに。
ええ。
Right, which kept Beatrice out.
夕べそう聞き、寝る前に扉の内側のドアノブにかけました。
So she should have been one of the 6. Who do you think was the 6th that took Natsuhi's place, I wonder?
なら夏日おばさんはとても幸運だよ。
Yeah.
そうだったなら夕べベアトリーチェは夏日おばさんに指一本触れられなかっただろうね。
It's crazy.
ベアトリーチェはさぞや悔しがったと思うよ。
Beatrice annoyed? Couldn't lay one finger? Natsuhi thought back on that eerie scribble she'd seen that morning, as though someone had been tearing at the door outside of her door with blood-soaked hands, and gasped in surprise. Could it be that this witch, who called herself Beatrice, tried to enter through the door to Natsuhi's own room? But the magic-repelling charm had been hanging from the inside, so she couldn't break through. So she was annoyed. So she scratched at it?
よせよ、そういう話。魔女なんかいないぜ。いるのは犯人。
I think they're one and the same, Jessica.
それも私たちと同じ人間だ。
Don't think so.
それを確かめる必要があるってなら、八つ先にして血が赤いかも確認してやろうじゃねえか。
Did we say that witch's blood is not red? Was it like a black blood or something? Kuso.
さ
Kuso.
あ、よくもカノン君も。
Alright, Genji unlocked the door. 8 people entered Kinzo's study. Nice. It's been a while. Grandfather's study. I'd heard rumors about it beforehand, so I wasn't that shocked. He had done nothing more than fortify it thoroughly with his occult hobbies. If Grandfather's hobby had been chasing after pop idols, these walls might be buried beneath idol posters. Oh, jeez. Even if I didn't understand it, I did realize that this room was a bundle of all his pastimes. Even so, I couldn't help but remain dumbfounded by the smell of his creepy medicine and the sweet stench that seemed to melt my head. Are there lights on? When you go dark that long with nothing for a long time, I'm still scared like some freaky CG is gonna pop up. When the door was closed, it automatically made a clunk. I see. This is the auto lock that's activated whenever the door is closed. And there were only 2 keys that could open this door from the outside, both of which were in this room. In other words, it had become a closed room. The shutter, the receipt, the chain, and now the auto lock. This 4th door had the most magnificent lock yet. and this was doubtlessly a closed room. Just to make absolutely sure that the room was secure, we checked all over for ways in or out. The window was tightly locked. That should have been enough, but just in case, we tried knocking all over the windows. After all, we had talked about there being a hidden door in this room, but we couldn't find anything suspicious. Grandfather's study was very large. Even though we called it a study, it wasn't really a single room. It could be divided up into 4 basic sections: a study section, a bedroom section, a toilet, bathroom section, and a section for cooking that had a sink. I see. This study really does have enough to live in it. Now I see how Grandfather could live his whole life in this room without ever leaving. It seemed Grandfather wasn't in the habit of watching TV, because there was no television or even a radio in this room. We can't do anything except pass the time listening to the sound of the rain until tomorrow morning. Dr. Nanjo looked closely at the chessboard that sat on the table in front of the sofa and muttered. It was apparently the partly finished chess match he'd been playing with Grandfather until yesterday. Well, that'll never get finished. Do you think Genji can sit down and take Kinzo's side? Or would that be disrespectful? The black had the white pretty well cornered, and it looked like checkmate would be reached within a few moves. The last part of the endgame. Oh, right. If I recall, Kinzo was losing in the opening scene of the game. Even though checkmate had almost been reached, the endgame had been rushed, and in the end was never completed.
金蔵さん、やはりこの勝負は決着がつきませんでしたな。
I'm curious if the chessboard has any significance to it, like which pieces are missing, the current setup. I mean, I wouldn't know where to begin about connecting that to the story, but it's interesting to think about.
南條先生、わしは長く金蔵さんの友人だったが、金蔵さんのことを知っているのは半分だけでしかなかった。金蔵さんにはいつも聡明な金蔵さんと何かの恐怖にとらわれた金蔵さんの2人が同居していたように思う。
It'd be nice to see the wise Kinzo, but we only ever got to see the mad one.
わしは金蔵さんのことを何も理解してはおらんかった。
特にベアトリーチェ様のことになると人が変わったようでしたっけね。
Yeah. She drove him mad somehow. In the direction of Kumasawa-san's upward gaze, a portrait of Beatrice could be seen. It wasn't massive like the one hanging in the entrance hall, but small, made for this room. Grandfather probably spent every day in this room and so much of his time talking to the witch in that portrait. Who was Beatrice to Grandfather in the first place? Right now, you couldn't just explain it away by saying it was a story made by the parents to frighten children away from wandering into the forest. While eating the canned food we'd brought from the kitchen, we talked together about who Beatrice was. Whether the culprit was Beatrice herself or someone pretending to be her, whether they were a witch or a human, that was beside the point. The woman in this portrait was strongly related to the roots and background of this case. Didn't Kumasawa, wasn't she spreading the rumor that you know, I was gonna say it, but now I'm starting to forget exactly what rumor she spread, but it was regarding Kinzo and his wife and Beatrice. Like, I don't know if Kinzo's wife died and that's when he became obsessed with Beatrice, or his wife became distant because of his obsession. Shoot, I don't remember. I shouldn't have even brought it up. You couldn't talk about this case without talking about her. Huh.
そうだ。母さん、エヴァおばさんたちの部屋で犯人の手紙を拾ったんでしょ？
Oh my god, it's been so long. Let's finally read that, please. Hell yeah, I want to know what that says. Natsuhi took out the western envelope. Genji-san pulled a paper knife out of the drawer of the study desk and handed it to her. While watching her open it, George Aniki grimaced slightly. After all, it was a letter left at the site where his parents had been murdered. Yeah, so it seemed like... Why would Beatrice leave a letter at the door of the two people she was about to kill? Unless she left it at the door because she wanted the people who found the bodies to read it. That's also a possibility. There was a good chance its contents would say something unbearable to Aniki. Aunt Natsuhi also seemed to realize that, so she glanced over the contents first without reading it aloud. We were a little frightened that she might grimace after reading something shocking, but she just frowned unhappily. Okay.
不愉快な一文があります。
1.
私たちを挑発するつもりなのでしょう。
Natsuhi, after deciding that the contents could be shown to the children, set it openly on the table. Do we really... I brought this up before. It's still so strange calling Battler and Jessica the children. And George. I know they're not as old as everyone else in the story. But... especially George. Everyone stared at it at the same time. Oh. Oh. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. But this is still the same night as second twilight. Maybe it doesn't work like that. Maybe they don't have to be different nights. Or this letter is referencing tomorrow nights. Sorry, let's read it. Okay. Praise my name. No one's connected these kinds of things to the epitaph yet, unfortunately. I wonder what the upsetting line is. Maria's just like, yeah, that's my Beatrice.
大方また怪しげな魔法陣でも出てくるのを期待してたんだろう。
魔法陣ではなかったけどね。
Oh?
想像は裏切られなかったよ。
Okay. That was a short kihihi.
どういう意味でしょう。自分の存在を誇示したいのでしょうか。
そう考えるのが妥当でしょう。この手紙で初めて私たちは昨夜の手紙の主が犯人であると理解できる。ここに書かれている内容よりも昨夜と同じ封筒でというところに意味があるものと思います。
The identical envelope is more significant than what is written here. Well, I mean, the identical envelope has a clearer meaning than what's written there so far. Right, and we saw that Kinzo does not have his ring anymore.
Oh.
Oh.
もう私には何が何だかわかりませんよ。
Me neither, Chio.
こんなことは
I never called her
西宮
Chio.
のお家にお
Kumasawa.
仕えして以来初めてのことです。
I would hope not. This should not be a regular occurrence. Well, I say that, but Genji and Ken and everyone knew what was happening
昨日
before
の
it
手紙の
started.
言う通りなら、ベアトリーチェは自称じい様の最古の腹心だ。
Okay.
じい様も常々そう口にしてたんですよね。
I spoke to Genji-san and Kumasawa-san, who nodded together.
ってことは、じい様の次に詳しいのは源氏さんと熊沢さんってことになる。話してくれないっすか。
私は長いことわざと耳にしなかった話です。
Okay.
ですがこの後に及んではそうも言っていられません。源氏、知っている限りを話しなさい。
Yes, please. Oh, sorry. Alright. Genji-san didn't answer. Did he remain silent despite his knowledge? Or did he know nothing at all? Have we read the whole letter? Was it just those couple lines? Or are we taking a big detour from the first couple lines of the letter? Still, I had a good guess. The ghost story of the witch Beatrice had long been deified among the servants. He had probably been very close to grandfather and his occult hobbies, so there was a good chance that he'd been indoctrinated with even weirder things and had increasingly come to deify the witch. As grandfather's most trusted servant who had sworn loyalty to him, he might be the most influenced by the illusion of the witch that grandfather had created. So there was only one reason for Genji-san to remain silent. He could speak, but it would definitely cause a backlash, so it was better if he kept his mouth shut, and it wasn't like we'd believe him anyway. Something along those lines. A short while ago, Maria had been more than willing to speak bluntly and unrestrainedly, and that had earned her a scuffle with Jessica. It was natural for Genji-san to keep his silence. But will he?
お父様の愛人ですか。
Maybe this is what I was thinking of as far as but Kumasawa's rumor was spreading regarding Kinzo's wife and stuff. His concubine. That could be possible. For ordinary poor people, polygamy isn't only viewed negatively from a moral perspective. It's also an unmaintainable financial situation. But that isn't the case for the very rich. It's possible for them to have another lover in addition to the real wife. We can't deny the possibility that grandfather had another woman in his life besides grandmother. I don't think that that's the case. I don't think Kinzo and Beatrice were romantically involved, would be my guess.
ばあ様は生きてた頃、よく疑ってたらしいぜ。浮気相手がいるってな。俺はてっきりそれはじい様の想像の中の魔女のことを指してるんだとばかり思ってたんだわ。
そりゃなんとも面白い話になってきたぜ。源氏さんは俺に言ったよな。ベアトリーチェはこの屋敷ができる以前からじい様に仕えてたって。
お屋敷が竣工したのは昭和27年と聞いています。
1952.
ってことはベアトリーチェという人は30年以上も昔からおじい様と連れ添っていたということになるね。
その30年前の愛人、もしくはその縁者や隠し子が何かの恨みがあって何らかの復讐を企んだか。 なるほど。洋館ミステリーっぽいありがちなストーリーになってきたじゃねえか。
汚らわしい話ですが、一番納得できる筋書きです。どうですか、源氏。
おそらく親方様に恋愛の感情は終わりになられたでしょう。
Definitely gotta be one-sided though. And was it romantic love?
亡くなられた奥様より愛しておられたに違いありません。
Okay.
ベアトリーチェってのは何者なんだよ。そして今はどうしてるんだ。
Oh? Music gone. Genji's facial expression changed.
お屋敷ができるより前にお亡くなりになったと聞いています。
Okay. From a reader's perspective, if we assume she is a real witch, then sure. I mean, this is possible in the realm of, like, you know, fiction. You've got a powerful magical witch.
はい。親方様は大層深く悲しまれ、ベアトリーチェ様を蘇らせる方法として黒魔術に傾倒なさっていったのです。
Is that really what he's
親
doing?
方様はベアトリーチェ様を心の底から愛しておられたのです。
Obviously, we know he wants to revive Beatrice. He's doing this demon's roulette. He really wants to go through this whole ritual to get Beatrice back.
このような狂気に駆り立てるほどに。
As Genji-san said this, he spread his arms, as though asking us to look at this room filled with the signs of grandfather's madness. We were all at a loss for words. Normally, black magic seems like it'd just be creepy, and it's really hard to imagine why someone might be so enraptured by it. Since Kinzo was just an eccentric who had restored the Yoshinomiya family amidst his madness, nobody had tried to understand him. The only thing on grandfather's mind had been the loss of a beloved woman, and his inescapable sorrow. Earlier, this room had seemed creepy, but in an instant, it had changed into something we could understand completely. The creepy books, the magic circles, the medicine, all of it. It all existed simply because he wanted to revive the face of a single woman who had left this world over 30 years ago.
一度だけ深く酔われた親方様にベアトリーチェ様の詳しいことは忘れてしまいましたが、それはもう女の私が聞いて羨むような深い深い愛情でございました。
金蔵さんは後宮家の当主を継いだ時、当時まだ生き残っていた後宮家の長老たちの意向で亡くなった奥さんとの結婚を決められたのです。
Right, so it was very much just an arranged thing.
つまり強制された。
Yeah. So, Beatrice was his true love. The one he actually fell in love with, not his arranged marriage with a stranger kind of deal.
さようです。金蔵さんはお家復興のためだけに当主に据えられ、全ての重責を背負わされたのです。そんな金蔵さんがどこでどういう経緯でベアトリーチェと知り合ったのかは
それ以上語るのは無粋だな。
That was when Grandfather truly fell in love for the first time. Just how deep was his affection for her? That was easy to see just by looking around us. This room was covered with piles upon piles of things having to do with black magic, and Grandfather spent every day shut in here, immersed in his research and isolated from the outside world, never regretting 1 minute of it. You couldn't help but recognize the depths of Grandfather's love for Beatrice. Wow. It definitely feels, it's different from what I was expecting.
私誤解してたよ、ケンジさん。
It's all just rather sad. Hmm.
何をでしょうか。
私、使用人の人たちが魔女を盲信するのはじい様の気持ち悪い黒魔術趣味に感化されてるからじゃないかってずっと思ってきた。違ったんだな。
By acting as though Beatrice's soul at least had been restored and existed inside this mansion, they might have hoped to soothe Grandfather's heart. With closed eyes and the expression of one remembering something from the distant past, Genji had broken his long silence. In making that confession, he probably felt like he was betraying his one and only master in the most serious way, even though that person was already dead. So the first scene where Battler comes into the kitchen, finds Kanon and Genji and Kumasawa. And he's like, oh, continue, and he wants to hear more about what they're saying, and then Maria shows in. During that scene, Kanon, Genji, and Kumasawa are all staring at a fixed point behind Battler. And Battler's so sure, not sure, but he thinks they're acting like they can see something he can't. Like they can all see the witch behind him. And he doesn't have the... what was the term? The wavelength. But now it seems like we're getting to the truth of the matter. That the servants are just making themselves believe the story because of how much they care for Kinzo. So my question is, how are they all staring at the same thing behind Battler? With their so-called good wavelengths and such, that they could see Beatrice? But they don't, deep down in their hearts, they know Beatrice is dead. They don't actually believe in her. At least that's what I'm getting from this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do still believe in the whole witch thing, but I don't know. Let's keep going. I've spent too long trying to describe this scene when it was not that important. I'll just keep that in mind. Beatrice has revived as a witch, and she is in the mansion even now. Genji had said it, had believed it, had made people believe it. And would take that with him to the grave. This might have been the last service he could offer up to his master. Right, like he did it all for Kinzo. It wasn't a belief that sparked from his own thoughts. The legend of the witch, the mysterious tale of Rakanjima that was still whispered amongst the servants, its true nature was a sad lie. No, it was an act of kindness towards Grandfather, who had lost the person he loved above all else. Damn. That's...
私はお父様の前で魔女を
Oh,
否定する話を何度か口にした覚えがあります。
no.
今ならそれがどれだけお父様を傷つけていたかわかります。
Shoot.
今の僕にならわかるよ。シャノンを蘇らせる方法が黒魔術だというなら、僕は今すぐにもこの部屋の次の主となって研究を始めるよ。
Wow. Yeah. That's... Just wow, man.
兄貴、
Sorry, I don't have better words for it. It's just... It's sad. Another strand of tears dripped from George's eyes. Maybe his tears were infectious. Tears rose to Jessica's eyes too, and she sniffled.
ベアトリーチェは言っていたよ。もうじき蘇ることができる。会うことができるって。
I mean, now we're playing the whole thing up as a lie so much and not true that Maria almost looks like, you know, she's the fool here, you know? But I mean, Beatrice is real. Like, she is real, and she is going to come soon, I'm sure. So these kinds of scenes are very interesting because they play up things like Beatrice not being real as fact, when the reader kind of knows that's not what's happening here. Very soon the door to the Golden Land will be opened. In the promised land that glitters gold, the souls of all the dead will be resurrected, along with the love that has been lost. Then I will sleep in a world of peacefulness for all time.
そう言ったのか。
Was that the Oh, that's the whole letter, is it? Praise my name is the whole thing. I love it. Oh, that's great. And that Natsuhi read it and she was like, there is one line that will be upsetting. There's only one line in the whole thing. Great. Okay, sorry.
マリアに手紙を渡したベアトリーチェは。
信じないよね。
ここにじいさまがいたならきっと喜んだろうな。もうじきベアトリーチェが蘇ることにさぞや踊り上がって喜んだろうな。なら俺は信じたぜ。じいさまが半生をかけて研究したことで蘇り、愛した女の魂が蘇ったと信じて寿命を全うできるって言うんなら俺も信じたぜ。
Okay.
一人の女性をずっと愛し続けた気持ちが周りにも伝わり真実となる。それを気遣いと呼べばそれまでだろうけれど、今の僕はあえてそれを魔法と呼んであげたいね。
Alright.
気遣いじゃないよ。本当に魔法だよ。魔女だよ。
Show us some proof, Maria.
やっぱり誰にもベアトリーチェの姿は見えないんだね。
Some time passed. As we listened to the sound of the rain, we considered what kind of love and madness must have possessed the owner of this room as he spent half his life here. Alright.
女の私から聞けば、お父様の純愛の気持ちも少しは理解したいところですが。
Okay. I'm really sorry if my commentary was a little lackluster and lacking this episode. It's getting late and I just wanted to play as much as I could. I was fully focused and aware, but talking and forming sentences in my mind, I just felt a bit slow. Just this one episode. So I apologize if that felt like the case. I am going to call it a night here, even though I really don't want to. Just because I can feel like, I can feel the tiredness starting to wash over me. It's pretty late at night. But tomorrow morning, I'm going to pick this back up, and I'm going to play it till I finish chapter 1, however long that is, episode 1. So we're going to just go for it. Okay. So many conversations about what's the truth, what's a lie, why do we believe in the things that we do, and what are we willing to convince ourselves is true for the sake of someone else or for the sake of ourselves. When I wake up, I'm going to rewatch this episode just to get it all fresher in my mind. I'd like to reread some of the stuff and form some better thoughts on it, I think, than I have right now. But yeah, there's nothing else as far as things to look at. I guess not. All right. Well, as we go closer and closer, I'm sure, to the end of episode 1, we're so many hours into this, it's got to be around the corner. I thank you all for watching. It's been a good time, and I will catch you in tomorrow's episode. See you later.